I enlisted in the U.S. Army in 2019, going into 2020. I was 20 years old, almost 21. Signed up to be an 11 Bravo as an infantryman. I wanted to kick in doors and do cool Call of Duty shit. I mean, hell, I'll admit it. Most people joined up for that same reason. Went through basic training, and I honestly, loved it because I learned like a huge lesson that hey, it's on you to try and make things better for yourself. No one else has got to sit here and coddle you. Like, you just got to send it. I get to my first duty station, and my drill sergeants actually warned me because you get to know where you're going before you go, and you don't get to pick. And I got sent to Fort Bliss, Texas, El Paso, and told my drill sergeant about it. He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." I go, "What do you mean you're sorry?" He goes, "You're gonna hate it there." I'm like,
Oh.
Okay. So not a great first impression. I get there, and within the first week of arriving in Fort Bliss, after I get to my unit, get through reception, first week, we already had a suicide on base. It was some female sergeant jumped off an overpass, or it was an attempted suicide. She survived. She jumped off an overpass into the freeway. And I was like, okay, maybe, hopefully that's not the status quo here.
Oh my God.
Boy, was I wrong. Went on for a few more days, just getting mingled into the group, just normal new unit booed shit. Well, fast forward about a month, you go to gunnery. Gunnery is where you train with your vehicles, where you got to qualify your vehicles before you can actually deploy or do anything with them. They're not just going to trust you. A week before I went to gunnery, this unit had a blue on blue incident. That's friendly fire. A Abrams shot another Abrams with a Sabo round. Given it was a training one, but it still pinned the turret. And two of those guys that were in the tank, I mean, they got medically discharged because, well, one of them lost all his fingers. The other one was riddled full of shrapnel. And that got pushed under the rug super quick. I believe there was one news story about it, but that was it. That got shut up really quick. And stuff like that happens here all the time. Something stupid going on or something wrong happening, and it just gets shoved under the rug because, we can't let people look bad. It's like, why would we own up to our mistakes and fix things when we can just push it underneath the carpet? We finally go to gunnery, and this is the first of many times where yours truly almost got murderized or killed there, where we were bore sighting one of the 240s. That's the machine gun on the Bradley. And the bore sight kit was still in it. My gunner got out because he was pissed off, whatever the hell. We were trying to bore sight. It wasn't going right. He went to go smoke a cigarette. I'm like, okay, I guess we're taking a break. So I'm sitting on top of the turret, chilling. He comes back in. He doesn't say anything, doesn't tell me to do anything. And I'm just a private. They hammer into your head. Your only job is to take orders and execute. You don't have an opinion. You don't have any of this other shit. Just shut up and do your job, which I'm like, okay, I get it. That's fine. So he hasn't told me to do anything, so I'm not going to do anything. So I'm sitting there. All of a sudden, I hear a loud ass pop and a bang. I'm like, what the was that? And I look forward. I see the bore sight kit flying 20 meters in front of the Bradley because it just got sent out. I look down. I'm like, did you just try to fire? And he goes, what are you still doing up there? I'm like, I've been staring at you the whole fucking time. Why'd you shoot this thing while I'm still on it? And at first, I'm freaking out because I think I have to pay for that. In reality, my buddy, who is also a Bradley assistant gunner, said, dude, you're actually really lucky. I'm like, why? He goes, were you wearing your flak vest, your chicken vest? I'm like, yeah. He goes, that bore sight kit normally blows up into a million fucking itty bitty pieces. You're lucky you're not in the hospital right now. What the hell? And then another sergeant came up to me and said, hey, man, if that was you who did that and it was the other way around, you'd be getting kicked out of the Army right now. But because, he's an E4, they don't want to do that to him. So it's whatever. And I even got curious because when we went back from gunnery and you have to write an incident report on what happened, I'm writing my incident report and I noticed everybody else's incident reports they're on the tabs on the computer. And I got curious. I clicked on them. Nobody of these 7 other people that wrote a report mentioned that I was on top of the turret and that I pretty much almost got my foot blown off because my foot was maybe a couple inches away from the barrel. My boot was burnt. It had
Oh my God.
gunpowder marks on it. I didn't even notice until I got back. I'm like, what the really? And yeah, no, people don't care about you, man. That's how shit is here. I'm like, okay. I don't know. It's just ridiculous. Just shit like that. Oh, you almost die. Well, not die, but you almost get your foot blown off. I'll shove it under the rug. It's fine.
And that's the norm?
Yeah, that's the norm. If you're a lower enlisted, you're not going to get help. You're not going to get defended. Trying to get medical help here is insanely impossible because, especially with the infantry, you're going to be looked at as a malingerer, somebody who's lying to get out of training or something. But even if you're actually hurt, Most people just try to suck it up because they don't want to look like a shitbag. But then they'll end up getting hurt anyways, and then they get a negative counseling because, oh, why didn't you tell us? Because you just called me a malingerer. That's why. Here's one incident, and it was right as I got there. We had a dude whose grandpa died, and his grandpa was a Vietnam vet, and we were about to go to NTC, and he told the sergeant major, "Hey, sergeant major, my grandfather just died. Can I put in for a 4-day pass to fly back home and go to his funeral?" Sergeant major called him out and said, "No, you're lying. Like, if you want to go there, you need to do how everybody else does. Get a Red Cross message." He goes, "Okay, roger that." Family writes a Red Cross message. They send it in, and the sergeant major says, "No, I bet you fake this. It doesn't matter. I need bodies on this shit. I need people for NTC. You can't go." He goes, "Okay, sergeant major, but there's one last weekend before we go. Can I at least get a pass to go off post and go see his funeral then?" He said no. So he wasn't allowed to go see his grandfather's funeral, and practically had to fight tooth and nail just to go see his grave after we got back.
Oh my god.
So that we still have that same sergeant major, and he's still a piece of shit. Just like shit like that, like little things. Like if you're on deployment, like actually doing stuff, I get it. Like shit happens. You're not going to be able to just get up and go home if you're in the middle of Afghanistan or Iraq or wherever. But this unit never goes there, but whatever. But like we're like home. We're like in garrison. We're here in Texas, like we're stateside. There should be no excuse that you shouldn't be able to go to your family's funeral.
Do you think it's a power trip, or do these people actually think they're helping?
I think it's a power trip, and it's also the mentality of, oh, well, no one cared about me when I was a private, so these people. It's like, well, wouldn't you want to help? Wouldn't you want somebody to help you if you were in that scenario back then? Like, why don't you just be that different leader? Like that's what I don't get. I get the whole mentality of, oh, the Army's soft now, blah, blah, blah. And to a certain extent, they're right. But also there's like things that are obvious, like, hey, family member died. I want to go say goodbye. Hey, girlfriend had a miscarriage. I need to go be with her right now. Or, hey, having marital issues. Can I go see family counseling or something? Like stuff like that, you're not going to get help with. And if you do seek that stuff, there is a huge black mark when that happens. Like if you go to behavioral health, that's like, talking to a shrink, you are like blacklisted from going to ranges, damn near almost non-deployable. And you're the black sheep of your entire unit because now you're not going to ranges. You're not doing anything. You're not like helping out anymore. Cause like now, like you're, on suicide watch and shit like that. Even if you're not suicidal, like they just make you out to be this asshole. So 9 times out of 10, people won't go because they don't want to be that guy, even though they probably should go because eventually they will turn into going suicidal, which we'll get to.
I mean, trained killers seem like the people who need the most help out of all of us, and they're just completely banned from doing so without screwing over their entire career.
Yeah, either the screwing over the career or just looking like a shitbag. I mean, yeah. And like one thing, it's a little off topic. One thing I do want to get at for people who might watch this, I understand you've probably gone through worse shit, and you probably have, or, your unit was even shittier to you. That's my point in the whole thing is my shitty experience and the amount of friends I've had to like go to their funeral because of suicides or bullshit I've had to do to like help out people. That's just the surface level of bullshit. There is so much more shit that I count myself lucky that like, I'm glad I only have 2 suicides a month instead of 5. Like, Jesus. But that's like the major thing. Hell, Fort Bliss, the installation I'm at, is so bad. We tied for suicide for like #1 suicide in all of like any Army installation worldwide. We tied last year, which was fucking baffling to me. And people always ask, well, why is that? Is it because of the unit? I'm like, well, yeah, but it's also leadership. You ask anyone in the Army what's worse, a toxic soldier or a toxic leader, they will say a toxic leader. A toxic soldier, you could just get rid of him. Toxic leader, he's fucking there to stay. There's nothing you can do about that. And it's gotten to the point where we even have people who should be in jail who are still here. What's one good example? Not saying names, but we have one guy who 100% should be in jail for molesting a soldier because while we were on our rotation, he sexually molested another soldier. The soldier brought it up to Sharp. Sharp is sexual harassment and prevention, blah, blah, all that shit. He brought it up. When he did this, they didn't fire him. They just demoted the guy who did it from a sergeant to a specialist and then moved the soldier to like another like base of his choosing. He wanted to go to Fort Hood because it's closer to his family.
The whole thing about demotion, that's what really gets me because that means they recognized he did it.
Yep. And he's still here. He's still here, and he's got to get his rank back in like probably 4 or 5 months when he moves units again.
It's almost more honorable to just deny it than to accept that he did something horrific and then just let him go with a slap on the wrist.
No, they let him go, which that hits close to home for me because I have my own experience with sexual assault and bullshit from like before I was in the army. But like just going to work every day and you're working with a fucking molester. Oh, that's cool. There was one really bad point where I had a friend, people knew him better than I did, but he was one of my, I'd like to say a good friend of mine who helped me get through gunnery. He helped me go through, all that extra bullshit. Taught me a lot of like cool tricks, like, tricks of the trade to make life a little easier. He was a great friend of mine. And he ended up getting out of the army. He got out, got his honorable discharge. I want to say like maybe a couple months after he got out, he decided to commit suicide. And none of us knew, but then the news broke to us eventually, and it was bad. When you go to work, you always go to a place called the COF. That's like the command operating facility. You go there, and it's always loud. It's always rowdy. There's always people fighting. The day we learned that he died, it was quiet. There was nothing going on. You could hear someone drop a paper ball, which is not normal at all. I walk in there, and my dumb edgelord ass, I walk in and I just go, "Oh, guys, why the long faces? Who died?" And my friend looks at me and goes, "Shut the up." I'm like, "Whoa, what the happened?" He goes, "So-and-so," not saying names, just committed suicide. And I sat there for a minute and I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, "No, you're with me, dude. Like, shut up. Like, that's not funny." He's like, "I'm not joking with you. Like, shut the up." I'm like, "What the?" So we're sitting there and our first sergeant comes out and he calls us all out. He calls out my platoon specifically because he was in our platoon, and he goes, "Hey, I want everybody by the Bradleys. I want to talk." And we're like, "Oh, we go out there," and he goes, "I'm sure you probably have all heard, but such and such committed suicide." That same week or that weekend, we had a mission. We had to go on an air assault mission. Now, under normal circumstance, the Army would recognize this and be like, "Hey, all these dudes just lost their best friend. Maybe we shouldn't go send them on a mission right now for stupid training that they can just do later." And our first sergeant even acknowledged it. He goes like, "It's bullshit. You guys shouldn't be going on this, but they're forcing me to tell you and to go with you on this stupid mission." He goes, "It's trash." He goes, "I've known 18 people." He says, "I've known 18 people in my short career who have committed suicide." He goes, "One is too much. 18 much is too fucking much." He goes, "Talk to each other. I know this unit sucks. I know it's hard here, but I don't want to lose any more fucking people." And that broke all of us. People were holding back tears. People were trying so hard not to just lose their fucking minds on the spot because it was so stupid. And what's even worse is like, I don't know. What's even worse is then like you get told shit like, "Oh, go talk to people," or, "Oh, go check on your Joes." I'm like, you can't fucking order someone to give a fuck. You have to find good leaders who actually do, or maybe actually encourage going to behavioral health or talking to people. Or I don't know. I don't know what could have stopped it, but it's just stupid shit like that. Fast forward a little bit and going through again, like the unit constantly having suicides. There was one female that got sexually molested and raped while we were on rotation, and she attempted suicide. She didn't tell anybody. And what gets me is it happened in the middle of their barracks. She was screaming and everything, and nobody even went up to like ask questions like, "Hey, why is someone screaming?" That's kind of weird. And of course, as soon as all that shit came rolling downhill, they started a huge ass investigation. They caught one of the soldiers, and he actually went to jail because he was a private. So he's not an NCO. They don't have to protect him. And they got the female out of the Army. Shortly after this, 8th Army, the army we were tasked with, a general noticed how shitty morale was. A general. If a general notices how bad things are, you have f***ed up bad. Like, a general should not notice that. He noticed how bad morale was in our fucking unit. So they sent the chaplain to come out and talk to us, after a PT test. And he asked us, "What's going on?" And we started laying it out to him. We're like, all this bullshit, not being able to seek medical attention, working through lunch. Like you're supposed to get like at least an hour for your lunch. In reality, it's more like 45 minutes, 30 minutes. But instead, every day they would just come in and be like, "Hey, leave 2 here. The rest go grab something, come back, switch out." Like you're not even allowed to eat or do anything. You're constantly the one working the most, eating through lunches and breakfast and other bullshit, getting called in on weekends. Like, you just get no time to yourself. And then eventually, like, it doesn't sound so bad, and it's not, but eventually it just burns you out. And you're just like, dude, this. Like, I don't have any time to hang out with my friends or even call my family at this point. Like, what the and we brought up all this shit to him, and he goes like, is it really this bad? And we're like, everyone from E1 to E5 was shaking their heads. Yes, it is this shitty. And he goes, all right, I'm going to talk to your guys' six. That's basically the commander. Six is usually your lieutenant or the commander. Six is like the officer. Because I'm going to talk to you guys as six and try to get you guys at least a lunch because you guys deserve lunch. Same day, when we go into work, all of a sudden, all the things we complained about started happening within the span of like 30 minutes. Start yelling at us, saying, fuck you, fuck this, treating us like fucking shit. And it's like, oh, okay, I see what's happening here. So we pretty much learned that day that things can be stupid or things can be really stupid if we complained.
See, the thing that kind of amazes me about this whole system is that it is not only important to the individuals that they get this support, but when everybody's a well-oiled machine mentally and physically, it makes things so much more efficient for the actual goal, which is to protect the country. And they just seem to not care. Do you think it's more of a culture thing of this get over it tough guy situation that they have going?
I think it's a culture thing, but it's also a leadership thing because like there are plenty of other units out there that are just as effective, if not way more effective than we are, that actually take care of their guys. My next unit I'm going to is like that. They fucking do better than us at NTC every single goddamn year, and they have leadership that gives a shit. Like, you don't need to be a asshole to people. And it goes beyond just the regular military mentality of, oh, just expect to get yelled at. Like, no, you'll just walk into work one day and just somebody will just go off on you for no reason. It's like, why? Like, I get it if it's for a reason or if it's for a lesson. You're going to get yelled at. That's how the life is. But like, I'll walk into work and I'll be like given a class or something because I was like told to give a class on like Battle Drill 1 or something, Battle Drill 1 Alpha. So I'm sitting there giving the class and it's hot as fucking our cough. It's not insulated. The AC was broken at the time. It's the middle of summer of El Paso, 115-degree heat. So I told everybody, hey, drop tops. You just take off your OCP top. You have your tan t-shirt on under. I'm like, drop tops, get your notebooks out. We're going to learn some shit. We're sitting there and we're doing shit. All of a sudden, our fucking leader comes up, or PSG, my platoon sergeant. He goes, no one wants to see any of your fucking saggy tits. Tell all your fucking guys to put his shit on. It's like, roger that, Sergeant. I'm like, guys, put your shit back on, whatever. And it's just shit like that where it's like, why? Is there any reason for it? Are you teaching me a lesson? Are you preparing me for something? No, you're just being a asshole. But if you say anything back, if you say, well, hey, Sergeant, it's kind of hot and I'm trying not to have a heat cat here, God forbid. Oh God, heat cats. Jesus. That just reminded me. I don't know if you know what a heat cat is. A heat cat is a heat casualty. You overheat and you start having a heat stroke. So you have to, go through regular heat cat procedure. You usually take all their clothes off and you get ice sheets. These little sheets you get with they were like in ice containers. And you put it around their neck, their pits, their crotch, all this shit, because you're trying to like cool them down because they're overheating. While we were at NTC, we had a guy in the back of a Bradley. He didn't drink enough water. He sweated all his water out. He started heat catting, and they checked him. His temperature was high. He was boiling. So we stopped our Bradley. We stopped our whole thing. We're like, okay, I understand we're training, but a human life comes first. We're not going to have this guy die because, we want to look all cool, hua hua. So we get him out, put him out on the back of the Brad ramp, and put the ice sheets on him. Well, the ref, or one of the refs, comes out and goes, hey, why are you guys out of your Bradleys? You're under indirect fire. It's like, well, okay, this guy's dying of heat stroke. We're waiting on the medics to come pick him up. He goes, oh, well, then you're all just dead now then. It's like, cool. And he just dropped the mass cash flag down on us and called it a day. Later, when we got out of the box to get some hot chow, we were forced to wait last for chow. So we basically got nothing to eat. I mean, we went back and got MREs, but like no hot chow, no nothing. And got reamed out by our sergeant major for failing the mission that day. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what's more important? A human being's life or some make-believe mission that doesn't even matter?
It seems like a lot of this really is about breaking you because they think they can build you back up, but breaking you with stuff that makes you hate them.
And of course, their main reaction is, oh, if you'll hate me, then you'll learn more. It's like, no, I'm just going to hate you more and just want to kill you.
Yeah.
There's been plenty of times where I've heard, like, not joking, people talking about fragging our commander. If you don't know what fragging is, it's basically where during a live fire, you're given live ammunition, live grenades, live rounds, live whatever the fuck. Fragging is like you throw a grenade, but it's like, oops, I didn't throw it far enough, and it lands right next to your commander and kills him.
Oof.
There are plenty of people unironically talking about how they would do it. And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I don't blame them, but I'm like, that's how bad it's getting. Like, people are plotting to murder you. Like, take a hint.
This is the guy who you should be putting your life in the hands of in the moments where it matters most. And you'd probably rather just leave him than actually deal with that.
Oh, yeah. My buddy who works in fucking supply, they were telling me that the whole time we were at NTC when we were dealing with COVID cases, because COVID fucking popped up in the middle of NTC. Yay. That popped up. People were getting sick. People were heat catting. We were short in supplies. We couldn't even get water out to the frontline units, which was ridiculous. And like the whole time all this is happening, my friend that works in the support company, all they heard the commander saying was, oh, it's going to look really good on my OER. Yeah, this is going to look really good on my OER. Oh, it's going to look so good on my report. Hey, sir, how about you shut up about your OER and maybe get your guys some water? You know, the basic earth sauce you need to survive. and then when they finally did get us water back up there, I saw the water cans when they offloaded it. It had 3 handles on it. Now, that's a big what the fuck, because if a water can or a jerry can has 3 handles on it, that's a gas can. Sure enough, open it up, and it's water, but it smells a little spicier than normal water, so can't drink that. Then they bring out the water buffalo. I'm like, oh, cool, thank God. Go up there, get my canteen, hit the little switch. Why is it soapy? Sure enough, we pop the lid, smells like a swimming pool. They didn't clean out the bleach in it, so they brought us water that we couldn't drink. Cool. And then when we complained about it, they just basically told us, how about you shut the fuck up and do your job? It's like, cool, I'll just go die of dehydration then. It's fine.
They'd probably get annoyed at you for dying on the battlefield too.
Oh my God. Thank God we never deployed to a combat zone. Oh my God, it would be such a shit fest.
Where would you have been deployed had you gone out?
If like World War III or like another 9/11 happened, then yeah, we might get deployed and do stuff, because this unit was deployed to places like Operation Just Cause in the 80s and the Middle East during the height of the scourge, but that was like 2008, 2010. Now we're a 3rd ABCT, a training unit for infantry and tankers and other shit. So that's our main thing. Now our main like theater of operations is like mainly the Pacific. So like the Philippines, Korea, and Thailand, places like that. Although I hear, not when I'm here, thank God, but I hear when I leave, this unit should be going somewhere like Syria or something.
Can you describe how units are divvied up and sent to specific areas? Because it sounds like units are a continuous thing, but the people in it cycle out.
So yeah, the unit itself is a continuous thing and people cycle out. How the units themselves are divided up, it depends on your actual unit. So the way it's split up is you have division, which is basically like the whole of like all of Fort Bliss. So Fort Bliss is 1st Armored Division. That's your whole spiel, Old Ironsides. You have that, and then that's split between a certain amount of brigades. So Fort Bliss is split in between 3 brigades, and each brigade usually specializes in something. So before I got here, 2nd Brigade was like strikers. Well, now they're Bradleys, just like 3rd Brigade is, and all that other heavy shit. And usually each brigade will cycle in and out of a rotation. That's why they don't call it a deployment. A deployment is like Iraq or Afghanistan. A rotation is like Korea or Germany or Poland, somewhere safe, basically. Like you're not going to get shot at. That's a rotation. That's not a real deployment.
So rotation is where you get to take a flight and then check out a new base, and deployment is where you take your gun and you hope you survive.
Essentially, yeah. Deployment, yeah, you actually go and do combat operations or rotation. You're just there on standby. Something could pop off. It's very rare. But yeah, like while we were in Korea, like we had like a couple of EDREs that's like, you know, like you get all your shit and you simulate you're getting ready for stuff. We never had an actual real EDRE where we were put on standby because we thought North Korea was going to do some shit. That never happened. At least while I've been here. I haven't been here overly long, only like 2 years. Yeah, that's like the whole thing and how it divvies up. That's just with Old Ironsides. If you go to another unit, like say 82nd or 101st, they operate a lot in like Africa. So they actually do go on deployments. They'll go to like Somalia or the Congo. They'll work with other like units or local forces there and train with them a lot. Carson, 4th Infantry Division, they go to like Europe a lot. So they go to Germany, Poland, places like that. Second ID, they go to mainly kind of the similar area as Fort Bliss, but only really in the Pacific because that's like where their main unit is based. That's kind of like where all that stays.
And how much of the training that you do is region specific?
It's region specific, but it's for the wrong region
Well,
because this unit is so stupid. Here's how it is. You know what the environment is like in Korea? It's swampy areas with mountains. It's on a peninsula. So where do you think they would send us to train? Oh, the middle of the desert, of course.
oh, hell yeah.
They sent us to the middle of the fucking desert, NTC, the National Training Center that's in Fort Irwin, California. It's the middle of the Mojave. Hot as fuck. There's nothing out there.
Oh,
it's miserable.
God, the Mojave's insane.
Yeah, I would hate to be stationed out there because I thought El Paso was bad. Dude.
I went to launch like model rockets there with my dad when I was a kid, and it literally looked like Mad Max.
Oh my, yeah. What's funny is like the animals out there are built different. Like we would, when we went to a quarantine area because our unit got COVID, so we got quarantined a few days in. We went in. I've been noticing. I'm like, hey man, I'm like talking to my buddy. He goes, what's up? I'm like, hey, you notice the crows are fucking built different? He goes, yeah, these crows are fucking huge. I'm not exact. They're like this big and like beefed. Like they would walk up and like be stacking up on you when you took the garbage out because they knew you had the MRE trash that they ate. And my friend's like, yeah, dude, it's the fucking protein powder that comes in there. They eat it and they just get chunked. I'm like, yeah, man, what the fuck? I'm like, the wildlife out here is built different because they just eat our trash and then they just get big because all of our trash is nothing but carbs and protein, and that's it. That's basically what's in an MRE. It's just carbs and protein and
Y'all
salt.
made swole crows. That's insane.
Swole crows that would like walk up and step up to you like, drop the bag, bitch. Drop the bag. I'm like, there you go, man. I'm good. I get fucked enough with my leadership. I don't want to get fucked by some crows. But yeah, that you got that shit out there. Feral dogs were out there too. It was funny. We almost ran a pack of them over because they ran right in front of us as we were hitting a turn. Luckily, we stopped, so I didn't have to clean dog guts out of my tracks. But had that going on.
The only base I've been to was Pendleton, and it is lovely there. The city's nice. The hills are beautiful. So I've never seen the real shit, you know?
Dude, fucking Fort Bliss. If you ever like go to someone's house here, be careful because there might be black mold in there.
Oh,
Even in the barracks themselves, like that happened about a month ago. I was getting a complaint by some of the soldiers who were living in the bottom floor, like, "Hey, smells like a fucking swamp in here." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" So I go down there and I'm like, "What the fuck is going on?" And I look in some dude's like vents where like his shower was at, and like go up there. As soon as I open the grate, it's just like chunks were like on the thing. I'm like, oh, that's not supposed to be there. I'm like, get everybody out of the fucking barracks. I'm gonna call Pride. Pride's like the people who fix shit, and have them come deal with this because I don't want to get lung cancer more than I probably already have.
yeah, no, that's not on the roster for sure.
Yeah, and there was a huge case that came out about I think like a year ago about like, you know, Pride and a bunch of other people like cooking the books and saying they were really fixing things early or even fixing them. And 9 cents out of 10, they wouldn't fix them. They just wrote down on paper that they did just so they can get a government bonus. Did our leadership fix that? No.
Oh, we love self-auditing. It's definitely a great way to do it.
God, it's so bad. I remember when it was near before our captain left, we were trying to fix some stuff up. He was getting logistics done and shit. And he got us some food for this field problem. We go out there and we open up these MRE boxes. There's mold in them. It's like, what? And they told us, oh, but it's in sealed bags. It should be fine. What? I'm like, okay. I mean, they are right. It is a pressure sealed bag. You could submerge it and it would still be dry, but whatever. Open it up and the MREs are like almost 10 or 15 years expired. One guy eats it, starts puking his guts out like a few hours later. I'm like, yeah, I'm not eating that. But yeah, I didn't eat that because it's stupid. But that's just how this unit is. It's so corrupt and stupid. And all the things I just listed to you, right? You think this would come up in their OERs or NCOERs or reports or anything? No, not a peep, nothing. Just gets swept under the rug. Hell, we have like at least a suicide like every 2.5 to 3 weeks is the statistic. And that just gets swept under the rug for no reason on what's going on. And then eventually, and you try not to get angry when I say this, eventually our new colonel came in and he talked to us about, you know, all the shit going on. And he said, and I quote, oh, I've been having to pass out more like funeral certificates and, you know, other shit more than, you know, challenge coins. You get coins for like doing cool shit. You know, it's like, oh, haha, cool. Been passing out more of this for that. I should be getting more, coins and passing out, suicide certificates, blah, blah, this. I'm like, oh, that's crazy, sir. Maybe if you did your job, that wouldn't happen. I didn't say that to him, obviously, but it's what me and everybody else was thinking. And then the next thing he said, and oh my God, the next thing he said, I will never forget. He goes, hey, if you're just not having fun, if you're hating your time in the Army, that's on you, okay? Remember what you learned back in basic training and all this other shit. It's on you to make the best of it, right? And like, also, if a leader tells you something, even if you hate his guts or don't like him, just imagine it's coming from a place of care, okay? That's all I'm asking. And as soon as he said that, my friend had to stop me from just going ballistic because I wanted to say so badly. I'm like, oh, sir, that's crazy. A place of care? Huh? So when Private so-and-so couldn't go to his grandfather's funeral, oh, that's a place of care. Oh, when Private so-and-so was complaining about two NCOs, both of who were married, flirting with her and trying to get her in a threesome and how she was uncomfortable. Oh, that's coming from a place of care. That's crazy. I'm getting worked up. I apologize.
Completely reasonable.
It's just a place of care, a place of care. Oh, when that same gunner who almost blew my foot off, when he almost caved my head in with a Bradley barrel, he was around with the turret. The barrel was still in the turret and it's swinging around. So I had to make a decision. I can either get my head caved in and die, or I can jump off and sprain my ankle. Well, ankles heal. And then I get a negative counseling for damaging government property because you're technically government property in that sense. They added that little smack on there, which I'm like, whatever. I fought it. I didn't get that negative counseling, thank God.
Is negative counseling like timeout chair for people where you just sit there and you listen to someone tell you were wrong?
No, negative counseling, like if you get one negative counseling, it writes down what you did wrong, how you can outline to do better, and like what you're going to do better. And if you get 3 negative counselings, Article 15. If you get an Article 15, that can go to a court martial. Court martial can lead to a discharge.
Yeah.
Going back to some of the things I just ranted about, yeah, that same friend that told me about my commanding officer going like, oh, this will look so great on my OER. Yeah, she had an incident when she first got here, actually. 2 NCOs, both of who were married, or one of them was getting a divorce at the time. Can't imagine why. They were like talking like, oh yeah, you're trying to get out of here, blah, 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 this, all this other bullshit, like basically trying to set up a threesome with her. And she politely, I wouldn't be so polite, but she politely said, yeah, no, I'm not really looking for any of that, like blah, blah. And they just kept on pushing the issue. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I understand the whole, like trying not to be too sensitive or blah, 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 like girls in the military shit. I understand that there's a stigma behind it. I don't believe in that stigma, but I can at least understand why people are weirded out by it. What I don't stand for is flirting with a soldier who is obviously not interested, and also that soldier's in your same unit and you're an NCO and they're a lower enlisted. That's called fraternization.
Isn't that blatantly against?
Oh yeah, that's 100% against military protocol. Like, no shit.
Yeah,
it's so bad. And then one big one that didn't really scare me, but it's just like one of those weird, like, when you see a Karen in public and you're like, wow, those people do exist.
mm-hmm.
This is like that, but it wasn't with a Karen. It was with somebody who was super homophobic. Me personally, I'm an openly bisexual soldier, and most people give me shit for it, and that's fine. And people get shit for everything. If you're anything in the military, you're gonna get shit for it. If you're a guy, you gotta get shit. If you're a girl, you gotta get shit. If you're white, black, Hispanic, whatever. But it's like a weird equality. It's like prejudice equality. Like, everyone gets shit on and everyone gives shit. If you can't take that, then okay, you might get looked at a little weird, but people will mostly respect it and be like, okay, just don't joke around with that person that much. Don't be surprised if nobody invites you out drinking for a while, but
eventually they all realize they're on the same team and they'll do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like everyone, like my buddy who he happens to be like Hebrew. I always give him shit and say the most up jokes you would never say to anybody. Just because he's like part Jewish, and he'll like tell me like jokes just because I'm bi. And it was funny because there was a sergeant in Korea that got offended by that and said, hey, you shouldn't say that. You might say something that people might not like. And then me and him both look at each other and look at him. He goes, can't exactly repeat what I said, but it was a racist joke along the lines of, hey, he's got the tattoo, I got the flag, it works, And like he just kind of laughed. And it's that weird thing where you say the most heinous and shit to each other, but you don't care because it's like, it's whatever.
Doesn't register as an actual attack.
Yeah, it works in that. Now, that being said, me being openly bi, one of my buddies came up to me when I was walking out to lunch one day and he goes, hey man, you doing all right? I'm like, I mean, yeah, as best I could. Why wouldn't I be? He's like, yeah, I understand you're openly bi. That's fine. That's cool. No one else gives a shit. Watch out for our new NCO though. I'm like, why? He told me, he was like, I was talking to him in the office, and he went to Fort Lewis in Washington, and he asked him, oh, how'd you like Fort Lewis? And the sergeant said word for word, shit you not, oh, I fucking hated Washington. A bunch of fucking queers down there. I don't that fag shit. I'm like, whoa, okay. I wasn't like scared. It was one of those surreal moments where I'm like, holy shit, these people exist.
Yeah.
Wow. Holy fuck. So I'm like, okay, not saying anything to that guy and just avoid him as much as I could. I was never really like open with him, not because again, I was scared, but it's one, I guess out of respect to him, because I don't want to like force him into something awkward. And two, I just don't want to deal with the extra bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm of the belief of, hey, if you don't like what I'm doing, if you're anti whatever that's honestly fine. I don't care. As long as you don't let it affect your job or your perception of me and me doing my job, I don't care. You can have your opinions. That's fine. So long as you still toss me that belt of 249. I was a saw gunner at the time. As long as you still toss me that belt at the end of the day, we're cool.
That is way more respect than those people deserve, and I respect you heavily for doing that.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, like, yes and no. To me, it's two sides. It's A, they're either ignorant to the fact because they haven't met someone yet, or B, it's their upbringing. And if they really are like that, again, they're wearing the same uniform I am. There are so many different political opinions, sexualities, outlooks on life, different shit here that normally any person on either side of the aisle, left or right, would say, no, these people can't get along. Well, obviously they can, because I go into work every single day, and all the lower enlisted, the people who I would die for, they get along just fine. A lot of my friends who are like Trump supporters, hell, they 100% support me, even though they know what I do. And I support them even though I know what they support, because it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we're both green. There you go. Like the movie said, from this day forward, you were not brown, black, or yellow. You were green, light green, dark green, but you are green.
Yeah, I guess having a common goal is really the only way to be 100% sure that everybody's gonna stop fighting for a bit.
Yeah, it definitely helps out with that. And yeah, like half those dudes, I love those guys. And most people would, outside looking in, see the way they treat me and the way I treat them, and they would think we hate each other or that I should tell them to fuck off and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, dude, I'd die for some of these dudes. It's my brothers and sisters, depending on who you're talking to. There you go. Like, that's just the way it is. There was this one guy, speaking of sexual stuff or like tossing shit under the rug. But yeah, there was this one dude who was a cook, and this got thrown under the rug again. He was paying people in the barracks to do oral on them. He was paying them so he could do oral on them. And he ended up giving like 4 soldiers an STD, and he raped 2 other soldiers by getting them drunk and around with them while they're passed out. And again, like, he got arrested. There was like supposed to be shit going on, but one of the soldiers ended up going to Germany and just wanted to leave it behind him and just dropped it. He's like, I don't want to deal with it. And another one just ended up committing suicide like a few weeks later. So that was their last witness. So they just let the guy go. They just moved him to a different brigade. That's what they always do. They just move him to a different unit and think, oh, that'll solve the problem. It's like, no, they're just going to go do it in their new unit. Like,
people like that don't just stop because you take them away from their situation.
Exactly. It doesn't take a genius to know this. Like, to quote my dad, he goes, yeah, a captain could tell you what's going on wrong. A private could tell you what's going on that's wrong. But they still don't do anything. I'm like, what the fuck? I don't know. It's so dumb. And see, this is the part that I thought about not talking about, but here it is, because if I'm going to point out all the bullshit with my leadership in my unit, I might as well be fair. And the truth is, this place, it grinds you into the dirt, and that's no excuse for what I'm about to say. We're basically, at this point, I'm actively trying to drag myself out because I'm going to a new unit where this kind of shit isn't the same. Trying to drag myself out because even going home for leave, my family has noticed I've been acting differently. I'm a lot more irritable. I'm a lot more angry. I'm a lot more pissed off or brutish. And my dad even sat me down and said, like, dude, what's with this tough guy act? Like, you need to chill out. And I'm like, it's not a tough guy act, Dad. It's just the way you have to act. Because if you don't act this way, you're just going to get eaten alive. There's nothing much else you can do about that. And he's like, okay, well, like, talk to me about it, blah, blah. And I try to explain the situation to him, but like, not to sound like an asshole, but like, he's never been in the scenario, so he tries to look for things that, yes, make sense on paper, but you can't do here. Like one incident where my dad tried saying, like, oh, you should have like gone and talked to your chain of command for this one incident. Well, the incident he was talking about was we had a brand new driver, and this driver was going to load up a Bradley onto a truck. Whenever you move your Bradleys out more than like 100 miles, you load them onto like these big ass trucks that can haul these bitches. Well, loading it's pretty easy, but for your first time, it can be a little nerve-wracking because you constantly remember the videos they showed you of a rollover incident and how it can kill you because your hatch is open when you do this. So if you're rolling over, you're supposed to like turtle shell your ass in there and pray to God that your hatch doesn't crush your fucking head, which happens. Like a private died that way last year, like right before we left for Korea. And this brand new kid who's never even driven a Bradley before, they didn't even send him to school. They just wrote off on his license, which is what you're not supposed to do. You're supposed to at least get behind the wheel of the thing you're supposed to drive before getting the license for said thing. But haven't been doing procedure this whole time. Why would we start now? So they tell him like, hey, get in, blah, blah, blah. And he talks to me. He pulls me aside. He goes, hey, specialist, I don't feel comfortable driving this. This is my first time actually even getting into a Bradley. I'm like, you've never driven before? He's like, no. I'm like, let me go talk to somebody. Go to my platoon sergeant. I'm like, hey, sergeant, I know how to do this. I was a driver for like almost a year and a half or almost a year. You know, can I just do this for him? He goes, no, he needs the training, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I get that, sergeant, but he's never driven before. He's scared and jittery. I just don't want him to roll it over. He goes, well, no, it doesn't matter. I want to blah, blah, this. And eventually I just said, Sergeant, what the, like, I got in an argument with him, which almost got me a counseling. And basically he finally caved after my LT backed me and let me haul it up for him. Well, later in the future, our sister company, same scenario happened, only this time no one helped the poor guy out. Bradley rolled over, kid lost his arm, got med boarded out. Fucking stupid. It's, oh my God. And I'm not saying that story like, oh, I'm a big hero, blah, 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 this. I'm saying that as an example of just normal shit. Getting back to my original point with my dad, he said, like, oh, you should just go and talk to your LT. I'm like, if I left, he just would have forced that private into that Brad, and he probably would have lost his arm like that other guy did. And what's even worse is I've kind of lost that mentality because now I've started acting like they do, where recently we had a Joe's a private, like a lower enlisted, from our support company. He wasn't an infantryman, and he's like a lower enlisted guy. I guess he was having real issues that I didn't care about, that I had better things to do. I had a million other things going on that day. I didn't want to be inconvenienced. So he comes to me asking for help with this certain situation that's going on with his sergeant because he hears that I help out my squad a lot when I was a leader. And he comes to talk to me and tries asking for help. And I, along the lines, basically just said, I don't care. You're not in my platoon. Off, go yourself. I don't care, is what I said. Because I'm just so pissed off or pent off, or there's really no excuse. There's no excuse for what I did. And then later, like 2 days later, that kid, they found him in his bathtub where he was like attempting to slit his own wrist. They luckily saved him, but I just, constantly I said at the beginning of this, it's stupid that our sergeant major reacts the way he does because it's probably the mentality of, oh, no one cared about me. And I said, oh, no, I would do something different because I'd want something to help me in that situation. And that situation, I was my fucking sergeant major. I just said, fuck you, I don't care. And that's on me. I don't know if I caused him shit. I don't know if what I did could have fixed something, but that's on me. I should have done something. And I didn't. And luckily they got him out. He's got medically discharged, but I don't know. I look at that and I started looking at myself differently. And I'm like, am I even the same person anymore? Like, what the fuck? I'm sorry for all the F-bombs. I'm just...
You're fine. The shit you've gone through would drive anyone to be a different person. The fact that you corrected for that and know that that was a weak moment shows your strength. You're not a bad person.
I don't know. Because I look back and constantly I beat myself up over that stupid shit. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why don't I do something? Because I constantly try to be the change or try to help out or fix something. I don't know. It's stupid. And make matters even worse on top of that, unit didn't blame me or do anything. Hell, I got swept under the rug. So I'm like, no, I don't want it's a weird sick feeling where I'm like, I don't want to be protected for this. Like, no, call me out on this. Put this on my like my report. Like, what the fuck? Like, oh my God. It's so stupid.
That's some self-accountability right there. Like, that's powerful. No, for real.
I think accountability would have been in the moment, maybe hitting myself in the nuts and going, hey, face, you're turning into the asshole you hate. Maybe don't do that. But yeah, I
once heard a very powerful quote about how to deal with regret and guilt. The human mind acts at all times on the best information it has in the best way possible. You are going through moments where you have been informed by pain and suffering brought onto you by others, and your brain acted on the best information it had, which was not good information. You now have realized that what happened was wrong and that you could have had something happen that was a lot worse, that you could have caused something, maybe or maybe not. But the recognition of that means that you now have information that will stop that from happening again. You took one time to get the compassion you need to be the person you want to be. You are not evil, not by a long shot.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I'm evil. I think I've just lost a lot of sympathy or a lot of sympathetic feeling that I've used to have and that I just don't have.
Rebuild it, man. You are certainly on the path to it.
I'm trying. Hopefully my next unit or after this, when I get the fuck out of here, I can maybe pull my head out of my own ass and maybe fix some shit. You know, what I learned a long time ago, it's on you. And here, no matter how much you try, I mean, no, there's no career progression here, either through your actual career or even mentally, because you try to fix something, you're just gonna get destroyed. You try and, you know, press yourself forward, and that's not going to happen. Like, they don't offer you shit here, and really the best thing you could try and offer yourself is trying not to off yourself one day or do others, because, you know, everyone's had those thoughts. I know I have. I know my buddy has. I know my friend who got out of the military. I mean, he acted on them, and yeah.
I think you're going to make it out of this situation with new knowledge that, although it was incredibly painful to gain, and obviously not completely beneficial, you're going to know what it's like to be a bad person, not from your own experiences, but from seeing bad people around you. And you're going to not be that because you have morals. You're a good guy. Thank you for doing what you do. And thank you for being willing to talk about these things.
Yeah. I should be telling you that, man. I mean, how I use your videos and videos like this to try and cope with this, because I always figured, you know, to quote Donnie O'Malley, hey, if you're feeling shitty, that's okay. Someone else might be feeling shitty. Why don't you go talk to them or read their story? And I'm glad to be a part of that. And maybe if somebody's reading this, if you're in the military and you're in a worse situation, which I don't doubt that you are or not, then maybe this will help a little bit. Or, you know, try and call your buddies from basic or some other shit. If I could end this with anything like that, just call your friends, you know, just link up with old friends, and you don't know, it could save a life. Maybe if I called my buddy, he wouldn't have committed suicide or reached out to that poor guy asking for help. He wouldn't have tried that shit. I got to live with that and try and learn to fix myself with that. But at least I now have that knowledge of the best way you could possibly make a difference.
Absolutely.
Tell me a story, I wanna hear it. You might think it's boring, but I'm interested.